Alright, I'm just going to share my experience with this camera. I've had it about 3 years. I probably don't use it like how most people would. I'm more of a nature guy and do a lot of inset photography. So I have the ×2 teleconverter. This makes macro photography quite good for not closing distance, but expanding the distance for your subjects. I also have the fisheye wide adapter, not the circular one, but the one that still fills the frame. So you get a slightly narrower field of view, but at least you don't have to crop in afterwards. This is quite good for nighttime star trails. I do have both the light adapters. So this one is the LED ring light adapter. This one is the flash adapter. They're okay. I mainly have this one left on because when you leave it on, there you go. So with the ring light on, it will focus right on the lens, and you can keep going, full zoom on that, and that will focus just fine. And you'll see the difference when I turn the light off. It's pitch black because there's no light being let in. But that also spaces the correct distance that the camera needs to be away from minimum focus. So you just hold down the info button, and there you go. Brilliant. And that will work on the tele end and the wide end as well. But as you can see, you get bright spots on the wide end, so if you just back up slightly, that tends to even out a little bit, but obviously the nature of ring lights, they're not going to be totally even centre to corner. Now, I will say, it's a little bit disappointing with the flash. It's not a true ring flash. What it is, you have a like a diffuser right where the flash goes through into the back there. So that just diffuses it, and it reflects on the inside of this ring here. So it instead of using it like a ring flash, it's more like a softbox. That's you see that's up to the left there. So imagining you got a softbox all the way to the left, and this will have different effects depending on your distance and how far you zoom in, because obviously as you zoom in and you drop your aperture, you're reducing the effectiveness of the flash. The flash didn't even reach it. You can just about see the Olympus markings there. But when I go to the wide section, you can see it's with the f2 lens, it can pick up the flash quite easily. Now we can obviously adjust that. So for instance, I'm on 100 ISO. If I put that up to, let's see, judging by that, probably about 800 ISO, fully zoomed in, far away. Yeah, there we go. So that needed what's that, 4 times the light sensitivity to be able to see. So bit of a mixed bag. It's okay. It's not amazing. It's pretty good when you're flush with your subject as well, if it's in focus. There you go. So close up it is effective, but again you end up with you know, a left bias that's quite a strong hotspot on that. It has its uses. It is expensive, but there we are. And you can have like a quick override for like half power and full power on that as well. Say if you happen to do a deep dive. This is okay. The teleconverter, I would only ever use this for macro work. If you need something longer, you might as well just use a different camera. You know, this is not really meant for that. I also only use the plastic adapters, so if I drop the camera, it will snap the adapter and not the lens mount. Circular polarizer on the adapter as well, pretty handy. A lot of people give this a lot of stick online because of the size of the sensor, but it depends what you're after really. It will print up to, I'd say, A3 if you shoot 100 ISO on a good day. For anything in between that, you know, your 6x4s, you probably go up to 1600 ISO. 10x8s, probably 400 ISO. The only example I've got printed out at the moment here, this is at 100 or 200 ISO, and that's a 10x8. And in my books, that looks pretty good to me. I struggle to distinguish, especially when it's printed, the difference between this camera and the full-blown SLR, provided you work within the limitations. So shoot 100 ISO, flood the subject with light. Sometimes I even use this. I'll use a video light side by side with the camera. Not always one this large, mind you. But as long as you fill your subject with light, there's nothing wrong with this. I actually don't use any macro lenses now. You know, if I want some extreme macro, What I've got to do is pop this on. Boom, done. They don't advertise it for macro photography because as you can see it's a bit of a tunnel vision, but zoom in, you get to about, let's see, about 3.5 times magnification. No problem there. And that's expanding the distance that I work with. Still close. You know, if you're working with a skittish subject like that subject I just showed, you know, you're going to have a hard time. But all you got to do, set up to your sequential low. Not with the flash. Yeah, I put it on sequential low, use some LED lights, and just rack back and forth, and you'll get you know, one of your shots in focus, no problem. Let's see. This is pretty handy. The way they change your accessories. One button, quarter turn. Never have to worry about sensor dust ever again with something like this. For those of you that have been commenting on my videos, I've been replying about the Pentax systems that unfortunately I had to sell all my digital SLR stuff. Basically I went self-employed at the start of this year, and anyone who's done that knows quite a financial hit, particularly buying new vehicles and whatnot. But hey, that is what it is. I sold the cameras, started a new job, much prefer that. So I've been sticking with my smaller cameras I already owned, and I don't really miss having a dedicated macro setup because this does exactly what I need. Also, doing night photography. Oh, I haven't got the adapter on. Well, just imagine the adapter's on that. Out your bag, pop it on, and I think it gives you like a 20mm equivalent, or maybe like a 19mm field of view. I don't really know. I'm not really, you know, with a system like this, I don't really take the technicals that seriously. They're probably lying anyway. But all I know is it's very wide. Gives a bit of a fisheye effect, so your architectural shots aren't really in the bag for that. But when you're doing night skies, star trails, or just fun shots, you know, this is a bit of a laugh. I think I picked it up for about £90, something like that, and I think about 80 quid for this. But again, 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember, it wasn't a lot of an investment. I say, let's see, 350. I think these are about probably 100 quid for the pair there, so that's 450. We'll just call these hundreds. That's 650 for all in. Chucking a video light, you know, get a small rig one. Don't get one of these fancy ones. It ain't gonna make any difference. And what did I say? 600-700 quid for what I consider a professional macro setup, as well as the, you know, what this camera was made for. This was a sports, you know, all-weather camera. I think this is the best bang for buck at the moment. The only problems I've had with it, the rocker switch, unfortunately mine did have the issue that everyone inevitably gets, which is it gets stuck. There we go, it gets stuck at the long end. I tried doing the floss method where you put a thread inside, loop it, literally floss it back and forth. No good. I put some grease in there to try and loosen it up. I eventually, I haven't got it here, but I basically got a screwdriver in there. I was getting very frustrated. Popped the whole thing off. Looked inside and I couldn't find any problems with it, and unfortunately when I reassembled it, I manhandled it and cracked something, and now it's really, I've really done a number on it. But this camera's still going. I mean, I've sprayed all kinds of lubricants in there which are probably damaging the water seals. Not a problem, it still goes. I've fallen over with this in my hand at what is it, Giant's Causeway? I just fell over and landed double hand down, and let's see, probably not even going to be able to see it. That's the only scuff it got from that. The Achilles heel on this camera is the screen. I don't know what they're thinking. Obviously it's like a soft composite on there to allow a little bit of flex when it gets hit, so it doesn't shatter. But blimey hell, it don't half scuff easy. I've had to put something over this, one of those like shaders that slide off on this, because the screen is quite hard to see in bright light. But yeah, this should out of the factory have a screen protector on. It's just so, it almost feels like you could score it with your nail. So that's a bit of a shame. So I like this camera so much that I bought the TG-7 twice, and I had to return both of them. Basically what would happen, I would go into macro mode, which is what I do for like 90% of my shooting. I'd zoom all the way in to maximum magnification. There we go. This is a horrible example. Basically, I'd have it at maximum magnification, and there'd be just a tiny little floater you know, like what you get in your eye, like a tiny piece of dust on the sensor. And I was like, okay, well, you know, it happens, I'll send one back. Got another one, and then there was a piece of dust on the other side. So I mean, I don't know if they sent me the same camera back and just bashed it on the table to try and reset the dust or something. But that was very disappointing. So if anyone from Olympus is listening, you know, I wouldn't mind a bit of feedback on that, because I've now tried 3 of the cameras, and 2 of them had the dust on and 1 didn't. And everyone who I read online with the TG-6s has never had a dust issue. I think bar 1 person, and again that was a manufacturing issue like what I experienced, but I'm talking 1 person on a forum thread. So yeah, the 3rd camera I actually tried while in a different country, which again, hence why I sold the other cameras, because a lot of money going in the business, wanted to go on holiday, so it's better to have an experience than have stuff, isn't it? Anyway, so I was in one of the shops and tried it out, put it on full magnification, and their camera, honestly, it looked like it had been swung around the room and whacked around. It was totally trashed, scratched, mucked up and everything. It must have been one of the guys who owned the places. Zoomed in, not a speck of dust on there, which is what my experience is with this. So I don't know, maybe it was a bad batch, but it's something to keep an eye out on. So anyone who gets this, I don't really recommend this unless you're like me and an absolute macro nut and just want an alternative. Pretty good for moving subjects, because obviously you can just pop a load of light in there and freeze it, whereas with LED lights you've really got to dump some power, and by the time you're doing that, you know, a bug seeing this great big orb, you know, moving around, and it'll fly off straight away. This is for fun. You know, you can lay this on like moss or like ice, and you can zoom way in and this will light up everything. That look pretty cool. This, if you're a bit of a nutter for astrophotography, the old wide angles, they're not really much good for pictures. And the telephoto, again, that's pretty niche. I don't know why you'd want that, other than for what I use, which is just like a distance creator for macro work. But again, really, if you want distance, you shouldn't really be using this. You know, your main working distance. So we'll give it a bit of an example. Let's see. There we go. We've got like a coin here. If you want that coin to be the same size on the screen, this is your working distance. Approximately. You know, we're talking 15 centimeters, which is not really ideal. I know most guys are probably using 100mm macro lenses, and you know, we're probably working at about 25-30 centimeters. But you're giving up a lot and gaining a lot. Yeah, this has had a few whacks, some pretty serious ones, and it's still going. But yeah, so that's what I'd recommend. As like a basic accessory is one of these, and just the adapter, the filter adapter, so you can pop a polarizer on there, because obviously that's pretty handy if you're out at the beach with the sun and all that. Oh, talking of the beach, that is how I bust up this rocker. I'm pretty sure when I was dipping it in the ocean to take some shots under the water, and eventually this, I don't know if something dried up in there, or if some really fine particulars got the way in there and just started jamming it up. But it kind of works occasionally. But I mean, hey, whatever. You know, there's no camera on earth that's going to take the boost this does. So yeah, I've sort of blasted through this because I don't like taking a lot of time on these videos, and you know, I hope that sort of helps some people. Just don't expect phone quality, but you know, the trade-off is access to so much more with no stress. You know, I mean, like I said, even though this is crapped up, it still works fine. You just got to work with it. And I've fallen over with this. This has been dropped out of the car. It's been smacked around. Just put a screen protector on it. And oh, I do have the shutter to protect the lens, but I never use it. I just end up with this on there with like a UV filter. I just use the LED ring light most of the time, because that just gives you that little space away from the lens, so you can just drop it. And I know that feels crazy doing that with a camera, but this is what it's meant for. You know, it is a brick. And it's probably going to last another few years despite what I've done to it.